Here's why I think you shouldn't be waiting for a 20% deposit. If you want to learn why, watch this clip from my podcast. So I'm in my 30s to 40s now. I've got $100,000 in either equity or savings.
Yep.
And I come to you.
Yeah.
What's your advice? What are we doing? What would be the first few steps?
Well, if they're property focused and that's where they're wanting to go to, we'd talk about what the cash flow would be in holding the property, right? So you'd probably have to go for a 10% deposit. You could buy, if their incomes were sufficient enough for the borrowing servicing of loans, which, we obviously calculate that before we talk to clients about what they could do. They would be on the lower end, so that could possibly maybe buy something that's worth $650 to $700. Not easy to get that because remember, I won't let people go to a regional market. And a house and land's got to have a minimum of 30 to 40% land value of the total investment. So, we're going into something that's really hard to get. Yeah. But again, maybe they would have to go for a 10% type deposit. Lender's mortgage insurance would be in there, but I don't mind. I did most of my purchasing on 5 and 10% deposits. I got up to 14 properties in the first 6 years of I wanted to get as many as I could. But that's probably what I do. But we would look at the cash flows and work out what it was going to actually cost them. It wouldn't cost them probably anything to hold that property, purely because they'd be borrowing maybe say 90% or hopefully even a little bit less, but 90%, a good strong income and tax deductions. It'd work out pretty neutral.
Yeah. Cause, I've always been told don't do LMI. So you're saying there's a way of doing LMI that is worthwhile?
What's your goal? Hold as many as you can.
As long as you can.
Who cares if you're paying LMI? It's going to be put onto the loan anyway. It's fully tax deductible. 100% tax deductible in the first 5 years of operation. The LMI part, which might only be 10 grand that they're adding onto the loan, but it's fully tax deductible and gets you into another property. If I could get you into another property with LMI, would you do it?
Yeah,
of course you would, because you're holding another $700,000 or $800,000 property.
So, what are some core concepts that, like my aha moment of I only have to pay interest? What are some other core concepts of this that you find, Pete, that kind of breaks people out in the open? They go, I'm going to do this now because they went from not knowing to knowing something very...
I think that's another really good question. I think the one thing that people can't believe initially is that it's not going to cost them anything. Go, what do you mean? How can it not cost me anything? And that's a really good question that people should ask. What do you mean? I can hold a property. That was one of the aha moments I told you when I found out I could buy a couple of properties. And they said, and it's not going to cost you anything to hold them.
Yeah.
So hang on. Too good to be true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's real. That's what the benefit is. We can write off our losses and the depreciation is loss and get that back in cash. Put that in with the with your the rent that you're getting to basically cover your mortgage and also your insurance and your rates and any expenses.
So we've spoken about the idea of obviously renters paying the interest payments, and that makes it virtually you don't have to pay anything to hold these properties, and they appreciate over time, and that's how we kind of make our money in the strategy. I heard you say before, tax isn't a reason to buy a property, which is pretty counterintuitive. A lot of the people that pop up on my feed are saying, buy a property to lower your tax. Yeah. And so what do you mean by that?
Yeah, another good question. What I'm saying is that what's the point of using your tax if the property's not going to appreciate?
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Of course, I want you to use your tax. I want you to minimise your tax as much as you possibly can. For every box that we put on a block of land, ultimately you're going to drop your taxable income by $30,000 to $40,000. So depending on what category of tax you're in, that's a if you're in a 30% tax bracket as such, you're going to get $10,000 back cash that you can put with the rent. And if you work it out with your costs and all that, it's a very minimal holding cost. So